Hello, I'm Igor and welcome to my tech farm. Sovol sent me their newest products for the review, and this is SV07 3D printer. And according to the specification, it is Klipper based 3D printer and it is able to print a Benchy, good quality Benchy in 24 minutes. Now, first time when I was asked for this review, they sent me just computer generated images. And first thing I noticed, okay, Klipper based, fast, but still a bed slinger. And I can see they use the V-slot wheels. Now, if you're not familiar, their best 3D printer, according to my opinion, is Sovol SV06 Plus. It is great. It is some kind of Prusa clone, but bigger. It uses 10mm diameter rods and linear bearings. And actually the Prusa with Mark IV moved to the 10mm bearings. So actually the Prusa started to copying the Sovol. But instead of just adding a clipper to that printer, for example, they created a new one, but somehow I feel that this is a step back moving to the V-slot wheels. And I wrote them my opinion about this. And then they sent me the specifications, so it is able to print on 250mm per second speed. And acceleration is 8000 millimeters per square seconds. This is quite bigger acceleration, so I was curious and we will see how it performs. And actually I noticed after first pictures posted about SV07 on the Sovol's Facebook page, every second comment was disappointing why they moved back to the rubber wheels. But the Sovol explained is that with this they try to keep the budget of this printer as low as possible, and actually they will offer a kit upgrade to the linear rails. To be honest, I don't think that these bed slingers have too big future in this very fast printing, because imagine with Klipper you can do some calibration and measure the acceleration, but everything is done with the empty bed. But during the printing, if you print something bigger, you're adding a lot of mass to that moving bed, and with this its specification will change during the time, during the printing. But anyway, the specifications are impressive, so let's assemble it and see how it performs. It was box in a box, so this is the original packaging also for the SV07. And I forgot to mention that actually the promotion will be in 3 days. So basically I have only 3 days to do some test prints with this, but we will see if there will be need to create some additional videos about it. This was content of the package, and the assembling will be easy because it is quite pre-assembled. So we have the base and the gantry, properly it has to be assembled together. Then we have the screen with the holder, and I can see some USB connections here and on the side. Additional side fan, and I can see it is a brushless fan. I measure 70 by 70 by 25 millimeters. It will be very useful to cool down that PLA on these higher speeds. I hope it is not too loud. This is a planetary extruder, and here what I like are these LEDs. Probably they are not too useful for recording YouTube videos, but very useful to see what are you printing in the real life. And this is that inductive auto leveling sensor. Now somehow I feel it's a little bit bulky. Look at this big distance, and it's quite heavy. Then we have the spool holder, and there is a filament runout sensor too. Bolts and nuts and some tools for the assembling, and 200 grams of the sample PLA, so it's nice that it arrives on the spool. And I believe that this is the acceleration meter, you know, for the clipper, and this is the cable for it. I noticed there is a spare nozzle. I think it is same like with the SV06 Plus, which unfortunately it is not like the Volcano nozzle, very similar, but I will be happier if it would be some kind of standard. I was just confused that some elements are missing, but then I noticed this. The printable bed size is 220 by 220 millimeters, you know, like Sovol SV06 or Enders 3. And I can see a mark here, 100 by 100 millimeters square. I'm not sure does it have any function, but I will see that soon. Unfortunately, another step back from the SV06 Plus is they moved back to the manual bed leveling and these yellow springs and the leveling knobs. And I cannot see any thermal insulation from the bottom on this heated bed. Don't forget to check the voltage on the back side of your printer if it is set correctly for your country. Before I start with assembling, I want to take a look what is inside, and I have to remove this bottom plate by removing these 8 screws. There is a fan attached here. This is the power supply unit with the 350 watts and output is 24 volts. And there is the main board, and I can see that high current wires has the ferrules on them, so this is good for the safety, they are not just tinned. This is the mainboard and the slot for the SD card, which of course we will not use. And I'm a little bit confused because I can see only 4 stepper motor drivers and 4 cables. It has X, Y, Z1 and Z2. But where is the extruder stepper motor? In the meantime, I found in the user manual that probably this is the stepper motor driver for the extruder. I will just place back this cover and start with assembling. Another useful thing I noticed that they use the backlash nut on both sides, and this is very useful for those who are lazy to lubricate the lead screw, because after, for example, Z-hop, you know, the gravity sometimes is not enough, there is an additional friction, and the backlash nut will always press it down to the original position. Connecting the gantry with the base with 2 screws from each side from the bottom, and then attaching the screen holder with 3 screws. And then installing the extruder, it will be held by 4 bolts from the back side. For the first look, the distance from the wheels looks big, but the nozzle and the center of the mess is quite close to the alloy extrusion. And this big extruder is held by these 3 V-slot wheels, and only this one here is eccentric, okay, you can adjust it if you need to set the tightening, but mine is already set from the factory, so I don't have to do the adjustment, only on these here. And I apologize if there will be some background noise because she is a little bit sick and she is now here, not in the kindergarten, so I have to work next to her. Installing a static fan. This is for additional part cooling. This is brought directly to the nozzle, but it is not moving in X direction, so maybe that is why it is marked here, this 100 by 100 mm area on the bed surface. This has additional cooling. And now mounting the spool holder. So this is the filament runoff sensor, and I can see more and more printers use this plastic injection molded part, but I better like the alloy extrusion because it is easier to add things to it if necessary. And this is rotating. Somebody really appreciate this box. Last step in assembling is connecting the cables. They are marked so it is obvious which goes where, only I don't like the extruder cable management holded by zip ties. Connecting the screen with 2 cables and removing the protection foil. Looks like Sovol likes this kind of solution with the zip ties, but one of the first upgrades I will print is some kind of holder for this cable, because in this case it will not be in the way. It's time to turn it on. After approximately half minutes it starts, and let's start with the leveling process in configuration, machine leveling. I'm just following the instructions in user manual, so the first step is tightening all 4 screws to the maximum and then go back 2 turns. Z calibrate, and it will start with the homing. Accept, continue. And be very careful, go with small steps so avoid the nozzle hits the bed. The next one is the bed level, which is actually the manual bed leveling. With this I will make this surface parallel with the moving plate of the nozzle. Yes, it is necessary to do it once, because the auto leveling sensor then don't have to compensate anything at all during the printing. And it will be automatically moved above these points, and I can use again the paper friction method to set the correct distance. I'm not sure is it only me, but these icons reminds me to something, like animal eyes or maybe something else, but that's just coincident. And it's ready for the automatic bed leveling. It's finished and it says save configuration and Klipper will reboot. Continue. And this is the result of that automatic bed leveling. As you can see in corners it is very close to the zero, so I did my work correctly on the manual bed leveling, but in the center 0.28 millimeters, so more than 0.2 millimeters has the warping in this bed surface. Only later I noticed there is some burn material in the center of this magnetic surface, and this could be the reason why it is higher on that position. And after this cleaning it is still not perfect, but a little bit better. Z-tilt. Theoretically this should detect if the X gantry is under the angle compared to the build surface, and it should rotate independently to Z-axis stepper motors, and it should level it. But in my case it just drops an error. Sovol told me that one of the reasons for this may be that the cables in the mainboard for the Z1 and Z2 are swapped. After I replaced the position for these two cables, I repeated the Z-tilt function and this time it works. So now you know what is the solution if you have this problem too. And about this accelerometer, there are absolutely no instructions in this user manual except that it has to be connected here. But for example, how can I attach it to the bed or to the extruder? They are lower, so I'll try this way. X and Y. But where to connect it? But physically I cannot see how can I connect it easily to this bed, so again some DIY hacks are required for this, I'm not sure. I will just leave the default settings for now. It's time to print something, but I will not use the sample PLA because it is in white color, and on white color it is hard to see any imperfections and errors. So instead I will use this Polytera PLA, which is in this light blue color. Temperatures preheating the PLA. Inserting was very easy. And the color is changed, but I'm missing the metallic tweezers from the kit. And now let's print something what is already on this USB drive. Benchy test 25 minutes, okay. Quite loud, this additional fan. And from now on I will reduce the background audio by 10 decibels, and I will leave these footages in a real-time speed so you can see how fast is this printer. And yes, it's much faster than the regular bed slingers. "23 minutes and 46 seconds, so not bad for the bed slinger. Let's check the bed adhesion. Oh, it is very good. I will wait until it cools down. The bed cooled down. Ah, perfect. That's why I like the textured PI sheets. And now let's check the quality. I will first remove this brim, but I don't think it is required here. And I can see here that this is Benchy printed with 0.2mm layer heights, because sometimes with the speed Benchy they want to print a little bit bigger, so it's faster. And yes, the quality is quite acceptable. Of course not perfect, but very good for 24-minute Benchy. So this is Benchy printed in 24 minutes, and just for comparison, this Benchy is printed in 2 hours on the 3V2. Adding the printer to the Sovol Cura is very easy because it has prepared the profiles for this printer. This is just a rebranded version of the Ultimate Cura, and this will be one of my printings, the cable holder for the backside of the printer. And I will be happier if they will concentrate adding profiles for the existing Ultimate Cura so I can use the newest version. For example, what I'm missing here is that adaptive line width, very useful with these thin wall objects. The G-code I copied to the USB drive, but I could do this over the network too, and it would be good to click on the file name too, not only on the icon, because it is a little bit hard to press it. It is covered by the scroll bar, and it is very nice to see the preview image of the printed object. Printing was very fast and loud too, after the additional fan turns on after second or third layer, and I couldn't see the option how can I enable or disable it over the software in the Cura. And this rabbit looks great. This is the first layer. I can see the texture of the bed surface, and this is very critical overhang, but it came out good and there is no stringing between ears, so the quality is quite good. My next printing will be this floating boat from Printables, and it will be printed in spiral or vase mode, and I can still see that bug in the Sovol Cura. When I do some search, from that on I cannot use this tab menu anymore, it freezes. That's why I would like to add this printer to the Ultimate Cura. This is the first layer of this boat, and it is always slower a little bit. This is the second layer. And now this is that spiral mode printing, and we can see that the moving is smooth without any breaks. After the bed cools down, it is easy to remove the object. Printed in only 14 minutes, and this boat floats. You can download it from Printables. The next printing will be this cable holder here, and I want to print it from the PETG, and it will be in yellow color. I really like this preview of the picture. Settings, fan, and I have to disable it manually, the additional fan. I'm using here only 40% of the part cooling, and I disabled this additional fan on the back. The quality is great, but now let's install it. Maybe not the perfect solution, but definitely much better than those zip ties. I just finished assembling and I noticed another bug. After the printing is finished, the temperature of the nozzle stays on that printing temperature, so it doesn't disable. This is not good, because if you finish some overnight printing, I don't know, at midnight, it will stay on this temperature until the morning. Okay, so I cannot disable it. Let's set to 10 degrees. I cannot set 0, but I can set 10 degrees. It still needs some improvement. The next printing will be from the ABS. This is the Titan X, and the printing will be on 260 degrees Celsius, and since it didn't arrive with the tweezers, it will print one for itself. I set 0 cooling, but it still enables this fan, so I have to quickly disable it. I don't want any part cooling on this ABS printing. It was printed faster than I thought, so I want to record the end. The printing is perfect, but still the nozzle temperature is 250 degrees Celsius. Bed almost cooled down and I wanted to remove it, and then I noticed very strange marks on this magnetic surface. Okay, let's remove this. Wow, it sticks very good. Maybe even too good. This is the brim. I have to clean it from the brim, and I know it works and it can survive even a short touch with the nozzle. I still don't know what are these marks on the magnetic surface, and finally I could clean the brim from this PEI sheet, and be very careful, so always check that Z offset if you print something on higher temperatures too. So set the temperatures to, I don't know, 80 or 90 degrees Celsius, and then check that Z offset. And my next printing will be printing a TPU, a flexible filament, and I will insert the filament now, but I will send the printing job over the network. Connecting to network was smooth. I just selected my network, and after entering the password, after a few minutes it was connected. Then I just go to this IP address from the smartphone or computer, which is on the same network, and I can see the control panel. And just adding this G code to the printing jobs, and it is ready. And I will be very careful with this TPU, because it may stick too good to this PI sheet, so only 40 degrees Celsius on the bed. Pay attention on that wheel that I left here some retraction. Not too big objects, but I have two of them, so I can follow the stringing, which is always present with the TPU or flexible filaments. And again I have to do two things. One is to disable the nozzle temperature, because it stays enabled. And the second is that additional fan, because it's not disabled at the end of the printing. Checking the adhesion to the bed, and it's perfect. These are slippers for the Barbie my daughter asked a weeks ago. And I know I will not win with this any prize on the shoe design, but it's working. Who needs the STL? And now the conclusions, but this is the last time I'm accepting this kind of short deadlines. Only 3 days ahead with the video editing, but I didn't know it will arrive in the last moment. I accepted this review 2 months ago. Okay, a few things which I really like on this printer. And for example, a two-sided textured PI sheet, additional cooling fan, backlash nuts on Z lead screws, dual independent Z-axis, clipper and screen are great, we have a lot of control over the printing, toolbox, LED and all metal hot end, which is able to heat up the nozzle to 300 degrees Celsius. Now, after reviewing SV06 Plus, I feel several back steps from that printer. For example, they use again the rubber wheels instead of the linear bearings. Again, we have the leveling springs and knobs, and we don't have a thermal insulation from the bottom on this bed surface. No aligning pins on the bed for the PI sheet. Small things like this, I mean, it doesn't cost you more if you place those pins. We had it on the SV06 Plus. And we don't have metallic tweezers anymore, because I mentioned in the SV06 and Plus that great company, because they include metallic tweezers, because they are very useful with the 3D printers. Now I noticed several bugs, and a very new product, and we have the bugs in Sovol Cura, and those bugs are repeating. I mentioned this bug to the Sovol, they had it in the previous version, and now it is repeated, so it's not improved. We have a lot of bugs in the hardware and in the software and a Klipper. To Sovol, I would suggest to concentrate more on existing printers and improve them instead of just dropping new models. Okay, it's fine that we need a Klipper based printer. The fact it is very fast, and that's a really positive thing. I have a few important questions too, which are not answered so far at this moment. Probably the Sovol is busy with preparing the promotion, which will be in 10 hours. How can I attach the accelerometer, because I couldn't see any information in the user manual and I couldn't find any prepared solution, so probably we have to DIY print some holders or something like that. How can we turn off the additional fan in a Cura, because if I disable the part cooling, I don't want that cooling to be even from this additional fan, printing with ABS or with PETG, for example. And how can we fix this error, because this is very serious error. The nozzle temperature stays on that printing temperature after the printing is finished. So after the end of the printing, I want the nozzle temperature to be disabled, and of course I want this additional fan to disable too. Well, if the Sovol will answer these questions, maybe they can answer directly in the comment. I will pin that answer. If not, maybe I will add myself this answer into the description or in the first comment. I hope I could help you a little bit, and thank you for watching, and happy printing!